Now, the sale of oil assets by international oil companies in Nigeria is opening up opportunities for several local players to become big players in Nigeria's oil and gas space. And to discuss this development, I'm joined in the studio by Kola Karim, Group Managing Director of Shoreline Energy International. Thank you so much, Kola, for joining us on the show. So clearly you are in the heart of this transition that we're seeing. You did a huge deal buying one of the OML 30 from Shell recently, $850 million. Those are numbers that were unheard of for local players, but clearly you are involved in that kind of transaction. We know that Oando is on the verge of doing a deal, over $1 billion with ConocoPhillips. So talk to us about the appetite that you're seeing in terms of the local players going into that space. A lot of people say it's a treacherous place to be.
Well, it's interesting what the government has actually done to energize this industry. Promoting local participation, and also more importantly the international oil companies wanting to right-size their portfolios in Nigeria, looking at the problems in the past, onshore Nigeria, and these problems they feel is rightly dealt with by local companies who have local knowledge, who have local relationships to making things work. And with that attitude in mind, they've been able to put portfolios of assets together that they want to sell and then move offshore where they're better dealing with the security situation and stuff. And this is where...
And you think this is a trend that is here to stay?
Oh, it is. It is here to stay because one, there is value on the table for everyone. The international oil company has value on the table because he makes good money for selling this asset. After all, how much did he pay for it? When he invested in it.
So some of them have had them for quite a while.
Yeah, some of his licenses were given out in the 60s.
True.
So reality is these are assets that needs to be optimized, that can be done well, but only dealt with by the local companies who have the appetite and the relevant experience in working in onshore Niger Delta.
Right, but a lot of people will say, listen, a lot of these guys are selling these assets. There must be a reason why they're selling. Clearly the oil theft is a challenge, bunkering. But you're getting in there, you're buying some of these assets because you believe there's still value. And by the way, I wanted to get your thoughts on the value of some of these deals, $850 million. Look, was that fair value?
I think it's reasonable value. The thing is, if you look at the pricing formula, you're buying 2P barrels at about $2 to $3 a barrel in the ground, onshore Niger Delta. That tells you they've already factored in the risk to return ratio, and the IOCs are happy. But for us as local oil companies who are aspiring to become LOCs, local oil corporates, the reality is we have the opportunity now as Nigerians. This is our country. We can't go. I can't run anywhere. This is my country. So the most important thing is creating that enabling environment by government for companies like ourselves with the right technical skills and partnership for Nigerians in Nigeria in optimizing this. Look, the reality is this. Where does the government make its money from? Government makes its money from production of oil and gas from the ground, and that's where they charge the taxes. The PPT is paid from that. Government does not make any money by letting anyone keep licenses that are unexplored or unexploited. So this is the reality.
Do you think the government needs to take a more firm stance on that point, that if you have the assets, you've got to exploit them? I know they are making a move in that direction already, though.
Look, the IOC is always easy to hide behind, PIB for investments, that kind of thing. One thing is for sure today. Capital is not shy of Nigeria and Nigerians. Capital is not shy of the right businesses and the right thinking businesses that needs investment. There's capital out there. The fall of Europe. Today, investment managers are looking for returns. So since they're looking for returns, they're looking for the right businesses that will give them effective returns that's dollar denominated.
So of course, Africa is providing that opportunity. Nigeria is no exception to that. But I do know that because we did catch up in Libreville, Gabon recently, and so I know that you are spreading your tentacles a little bit, looking outside the continent. Your thoughts on the opportunities even for local players in Nigeria to go elsewhere in Africa to do deals?
I think right now Africa is open for business. The key is this: Africans, if you look back 5-10 years ago, how many African businesses could do a $1 billion deal? But today, Today it's happening. It's happening because the owners of capital in Europe and North America are looking for effective returns for their money. So the risk and contra-risk ratio is out of the way. So it's not only Nigeria that's open for business. There are other African countries that has the same oil and gas footprint, license that's held by IOCs, that's unexploited, that needs to be farmed down, farmed out for companies like ourselves to come and invest in. Right. So for us at Shoreline Natural Resources, we're looking right across the continent of Africa.
Which markets excite you the most outside Nigeria?
West Africa, you're looking at Ivory Coast. We're looking at a couple of transactions in Ivory Coast, which is a very interesting gas market. We're looking at Congo-Brazzaville. We've just been there. Very interesting market as well. Gabon, also very, very interesting market because the opportunity is right across Africa. You see, what is missing? Scale. You can buy scale. That's easy. So it's a commodity. Scale in the oil and gas industry today is a commodity. You can pay for it. All you need is the ability, the right partnership, the right relationships, to building the right structures and making sure you can do these transactions.
Very interesting perspective here. Okay, one point before I let you go, I just wanted to get your thoughts on how you see the dynamics changing. Right now, I hear that the locals are probably less than 10% of the local market. How do you see that changing over the next 5 years?
I don't think the dynamics will change because if you look at what's happening
in terms of
today,
their contribution, their ownership of assets.
Look, the dynamics will change onshore. You see, never forget, oil and gas business is capital intensive. So today, let's take SPDC, which is the Shell, ENI, and Total partnership. You know, whatever they are selling from their onshore portfolio is actually nothing if you compare that to the offshore production they have. I'll give you an example. Look at Bonga. Bonga as an asset is producing over 200,000 barrels. Right. If you aggregate the total production from their onshore fields, it's only about 400,000 barrels. So if they take that money to invest in deeper waters, where they can get bigger, larger scale production, that's better and effective risks for them.
Right. So
it makes a lot more sense.
And that makes sense. And so that transition that we're seeing is likely to continue.
Oh, it's a reality position from government's encouragement of local companies' participation in the oil and gas exploration and exploitation in Nigeria. The reality of what will happen is you will create phenomenal capital base on strong companies that are Nigerian-owned, Nigerian-based operations.